Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. In a surprise ruling, a California appeals court sided with the constitutional right and dealt a blow to the gender identity movement. 4 Chinese citizens are wanted by the FBI for their part in a global hacking campaign backed by the CCP. The reinstated mask mandate in Los Angeles County received intense backlash. The sheriff says his defunded police department is not going to enforce it. And Georgia's Speaker of the House finally calls for a forensic probe into Fulton County's election. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. In today's society, biological sex and gender identity are not necessarily the same, and failure to recognize their differences can be costly. A New York human rights law has fines up to $250,000 for failing to use a person's preferred personal pronoun. Misgendering and dead naming are considered harassment and abuse by Twitter. It bans users for the alleged violations. Dead naming, if you don't already know, is calling someone by the name they used before they changed their gender identity. Facebook reportedly recognizes at least 58 genders for users to choose from when they set up their profiles. To get a sense of how arbitrary and illogical those genders are, one is called gender fluid. It means a person's gender identity is not fixed. It can change over time or from day to day. A gender fluid person may identify as a male one day, female the next, both male and female, or neither. But the fact that there should be 58 genders is absolutely ridiculous. And that there are laws that inflict such exorbitant fines is beyond the realm of understanding. In fact, even the heavenly liberal state of California, transgenderism isn't that favored. On July 16th, an appeals court dealt a blow to the gender identity movement. The court ruled the state law that penalized care workers of the elderly for using pronouns inconsistent with patients claimed gender identity unconstitutional. And the ruling by the 3-judge panel was unanimous. The decision affects California's Bill of Rights for LGBT long-term care seniors. State Senator Scott Wiener, a Democrat, drafted a bill in 2017 claiming LGBT seniors face special challenges not covered by existing nursing home laws. The opponents of the bill argued in the suit that the provision violates healthcare workers' rights for free speech, free exercise of religion, and freedom of thought and belief. It's also a significant distraction for healthcare professionals in performing their duties. Another aspect of this gender movement that advocates didn't anticipate is the Ivy League school graduates are having a difficult time getting hired because they are too woke. They're worried about things like pronouns. Outside of school in the real world, employers want workers who can think critically, not people who will walk on eggshells all day worrying about triggering someone. How much energy and focus will you have left to get your work done, right? The same applies to healthcare. If you're constantly thinking about not offending your patients by using wrong pronouns, won't that distract you from doing your actual work? Fundamentally, convicting people for not complying to gender identities is a violation of freedom of belief. Every individual should be respected. Transgenderism is inconsistent with people's understanding of human beings for thousands of years, that we are of 2 genders only. We suspect most transgender people respect this traditional view as well. It's the left, a small group with a very big voice, that drives social movements behind the scenes, often with ulterior motives. The reality is, the majority of Americans still want their children to learn traditional values. At a time when schools are embroiled in a fight over teaching Marxist-rooted critical race theory, a Rasmussen survey from July 6 found that 78% of 1,000 likely voters believe it is at least somewhat important for schools to teach traditional values of Western civilization, with 52% saying it's very important. Despite a drastic change in the social environment, where the left has doubled down on its pushing for deliberately distorted views of American history, Rasmussen said the survey result is unchanged from 4 years ago. It only proves the left does not represent the people. If all the parents stand up and push back this anti-American narrative, a victory is guaranteed. The Justice Department on Monday indicted 4 Chinese citizens for their involvement in a long-running hacking campaign. The charges came after the United States and allies condemned the Chinese Communist Party for sponsoring malicious cyber attacks on Sunday. The CCP's Ministry of State Security, also known as MSS, the regime's chief intelligence agency, is behind the attacks. 3 of the defendants are officers from Hainan State Security Department, a provincial arm of the MSS that hides the CCP's role by using a front company. The 4th defendant, Wu Shirong, is an employee at the front company who created malware and hacked into computer systems operated by foreign governments, companies, and universities. The hacking campaign ran from 2011 to 2018. It targeted trade secrets in a number of areas, including aviation, defense, education, government, healthcare, and maritime industries. Prosecutors said that the hackers stole foreign information to help Chinese state-owned companies secure contracts in the targeted enterprises, including research institutes in universities for infectious disease, studies relating to Ebola and AIDS. The CCP has set out policies in industrial roadmaps to achieve socialist modernization by 2035 and become a global leader in innovation. It turns out many of these goals will be met by stealing from other countries. Some of the cyber attacks are ransomware operations. Private companies were asked to pay millions of dollars after being hit by the Chinese. Some are spear phishing campaigns, sending out infected emails with malicious links in order to gain control of a victim's device. In March, Microsoft declared that Hafnium, a state-sponsored hacking group in China, was responsible for hacking into its email and calendar server. Security experts estimated at the time at least 30,000 organizations in the U.S. were hacked. In April, California-based cybersecurity firm 5i claimed Chinese hackers had exploited Pulse Secure, a widely used virtual private network, to gain access to the government agencies. In light of the CCP's new cyber threats, an unprecedented coalition of countries will work together to resist the challenge. The Five Eyes countries of the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. We also have Japan, the EU, and NATO. Seriously, who would still associate with someone that steals your property? The UK is not rushing to vaccinate children and teenagers for COVID-19. The British government wants to wait for more data. The decision is in line with a recommendation by the JCVI, an independent expert advisory committee that advises the country's health department on immunization. In the UK, Pfizer is the only vaccine approved for use for people under 18. JCVI said the health benefits aren't greater than the risk for most young people. The move not to vaccinate most teenagers sets Great Britain apart from France and several other European countries. They have decided to vaccinate adolescents as young as 12. The French government announced last week that it plans to set up vaccine drives in middle school, high schools, and universities in the fall. Back in the United States, the nation's largest county, Los Angeles, reinstated an indoor mask mandate, causing distrust among local authorities and residents. Starting this past Saturday, people regardless of their vaccination status are required to wear masks. However, the county sheriff, Alex Villanueva, is not on board. In a Friday statement, he wrote, "Forcing the vaccinated and those who already contracted COVID-19 to wear masks indoors is not backed by science and contradicts the CDC's guidelines. The Public Health Department has the authority to enforce the order, but the defunded Sheriff's Department will not expend its limited resources on it." The sheriff called on the Public Health Department to establish mandates that are both achievable and supported by science. County Supervisor Catherine Barger questioned the new rules as well. She said the mask mandate creates confusion and doesn't help the message that people should get vaccinated. The reinstated mask requirement also left business owners frustrated and exhausted. Restaurant owner Angela Marsden from Sherman Oaks made a viral video last year. She protested against California's double standard on its COVID restrictions, where the government approved a patio for a movie company right next to her business, while her patio for Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill was ordered to shut down. Marsden criticized the government again over the mask mandate. She recounted numerous conversations with other restaurant employees. They were saying the move to force vaccinated citizens to mask up is subverting trust in vaccination. It creates more vaccine hesitancy. Even though businesses are open to full capacity with regular hours, it hasn't yet made up for the staggering losses during the pandemic. Marsden commented that most restaurants are either breaking even or taking losses despite lifted restrictions over the past few months. Many, like Marsden, believe the pathway to recovery is not paved with government interference. Businesses want to make their own decisions. In Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer's emergency powers are at stake. Last week, the Senate approved a petition that gathered over 340,000 signatures to repeal her emergency powers. The Board of State canvassers were deadlocked 2-2 in April, but voted 3-0 this time around. The House is expected to vote within a month, and a pass is anticipated. Republicans control both chambers in Michigan, and Whitmer cannot veto the petition. Whitmer's approval rating continues to fall after a spate of blunders, including her viral private jet trip to Florida in March. 2 weeks after returning, Whitmer warned Michigan residents to cancel any planned trips to the Sunshine State, citing a virus variant was raging across Florida. However, Florida was already living with the variant at the time of Whitmer's visit. A new poll by the Michigan Republican Party found that if the 2022 election were held today, former Detroit Police Chief James Craig would defeat Whitmer by 45 to 38%. Craig retired from the police department on June 1st and is expected to announce his bid soon. Currently, the Republican primary for the gubernatorial election is packed. 8 GOP candidates have entered the race, with a few more pending a formal announcement. And coming up, we have Texas pushing for an election audit, a Pennsylvania county pushing back on a forensic review, and there may be another investigation in Fulton County's future. But before we continue, I want to take a quick second to ask all my friends watching and the live chat family to please take a moment to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, share this video. I'm depending on all of you, my friends, and the power of word of mouth to spread the truth. We cannot depend on YouTube to do this. Also, to support the Eye Opener team, please donate to the show or purchase a mug that matters. And don't forget, you can send me a picture of yourself enjoying your mug so that I can toast you right here on the show. I cannot say it enough how appreciative I am for all the support, and I want to give a big shout out to the Eye Opener live chat family. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you guys. I have nothing but love for you all. Salute. Now, let's look at some news on the election audit. After the months-long Arizona audit, lawmakers in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania have pushed for their own reviews, and so has Texas. On Monday, Texas State Representative Steve Toth introduced a bill to audit election results in the 13 most populous counties. Although Texas isn't among the contested states, Toth felt the effort is necessary to reassure voters. The bill says counties with populations of more than 415,000 should carry out a forensic review before November 1st this year and complete it before February 1st of 2022. The proposal also requires a third party to conduct the review. Texas has a Republican trifecta, but it's not yet clear whether the GOP-controlled legislature has the stomach for a sweeping audit initiative. If approved, it would be one of the largest election reviews in American history. However, Texas is certainly not free from voting irregularities. In June, Attorney General Ken Paxton's office said they were prosecuting about 500 election integrity-related cases, and 400 more such cases are pending investigation. In addition, the extraordinary move by Democrats to flee the state to block an election overhaul bill also raises questions on the sanity of their decision, since the federal government can't do anything about what happens at the local level. Key provisions of the bill include preventing election officials from sending mail-in voting applications to those who didn't request them, and increasing poll watchers' access inside polling places. Somehow, House Democrats felt so strongly about these common sense measures that they quit chambers twice. In Pennsylvania, a second county is resisting Senator Doug Mastriano's push for a forensic investigation. York County commissioners, in a letter to Mastriano, said the panel he chairs, the Senate Intergovernmental Operations Committee, may not have election oversight authority. They said it's typically the Senate State Government Committee that oversees elections. Commissioners are also concerned with outside parties gaining access to the voting system in the forensic probe. Last week, Pennsylvania's State Department directed all counties not to provide access to third parties. Otherwise, voting equipment examined will be considered tampered with. York County said it would reconsider the request if the committee decides to subpoena. Only Pennsylvania County has yet to respond to Mastriano's forensic probe. Moving to Georgia, Speaker of the State House, Republican David Ralston, is demanding an investigation into Fulton County. Ralston said recent findings by voter GA merit an independent probe. Last November, an independent auditor, Seven Hills Strategies, hired by the Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office, uncovered massive election integrity failures. The audit uncovered double counting votes, insecure transportation of ballots, possible voter privacy violations, and suspicious movement of a large number of ballots on Election Day. Despite all the evidence, Raffensperger's concluded he still trusts the outcome of the election. However, in June, he supported the ousters of Fulton County's top election officials. He said, "It's no secret that Fulton has had issues in their election department for decades. This makes little sense. We think Raffensperger's office has serious issues." It turns out at least the problem of ballot discrepancies was widespread. Voter GA, which obtained and reviewed absentee ballot images, found the November audit reported a 60% error rate in mail-in voting. The evidence is undeniable. Ralston is pressuring Fulton County itself to request the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, to conduct an independent forensic investigation. He said GBI has the expertise and resources necessary to perform such a probe, and as sworn law enforcement officers, they have the trust of the public to ensure the law would be followed. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.